All right, have y'all heard about like the biggest Michael Jordan conspiracy that there is?
Oh, I love
The betting?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of got something to do with that. So, I'm just gonna walk
us through it.
I'll hold your hand.
Hold my hand.
Small
Hold my
kid.
hand.
Kroger. Basically, you remember when he, retired the first time because he said he was, tired of basketball and went and played baseball, and it was like kind of random, which Michael Jordan being tired of basketball, if you've ever watched The Last Dance, it's very hard for me to believe. And the more I dove into this, the more stuff started making sense. So, well, if you look at some factors across the timeline, his father was murdered sitting idly just in a parking lot. And it was rumored that Michael Jordan owed millions of dollars and was in debt to guys in the mafia, guys you do not want to be in debt to, and that he was possibly betting on NBA games, which wouldn't be the first time that something shady happened with the NBA and people betting on games. That's Tim Donaghy. That's another story for another day. What it seems to me, and what the conspiracy theory is that Michael Jordan was secretly suspended, and they launched an investigation on what happened with Michael Jordan, who he owed money to, if he did owe money.
Shrek.
Was he betting on NBA games? This investigation took a little while. And when it ended, Michael Jordan just magically goes back and starts to care about basketball again. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there that are crazy. This one to me is not crazy.
Believable.
I actually believe this one.
You do believe this?
I believe this one.
You believe this one. Okay, so a few things from The Last Dance. When they did make it seem like at that time when Michael Jordan won 3 championships in a row, that was something that hadn't been done before. So he was like, look, I need a break after this. Now it seems like to us, well, no, you just keep playing, right? But at that time it was like, no, it was just absolutely exhausting on him because he was the biggest star in the world. That's the way the documentary made it seem.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I kind of think about that like this. Michael Jordan's unbelievably competitive, right? You have to be competitive at a very high level to have a bunch of success. You think they ever go to Jeff Bezos after he's the richest man in the world, like every year for 3 years running, and he's like, man, I want to take a break from being the richest man in the world. I think
he kind of did.
What makes him want it more. I think the archetype, the type person that Michael Jordan is, winning 3, God, it's not winning 4. And then winning 4, man, that's not 5.
Yeah, I get it.
But again,
he had done something no one had done before.
He had done something no one had done.
No one's gotten 3 is what he said.
It's like they asked Neil Armstrong, what are you going to do now that you walked on the moon? He said, I'm going to go walk on it again.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the mindset.
I don't think he said that.
I believe he said that.
I don't think that's the exact quote.
I think that's it.
So what about the baseball strike? Because that's another thing The Last Dance made it seem like is Michael Jordan was going to keep playing baseball, but it was the baseball strike where he was like, to your point, he's so competitive, now I'll go back and play basketball.
I think it just kind of worked out like that a little bit. I think that was somewhat coincidental, even I don't believe in a ton of coincidences. I think there may be a better chance that the MLB knew that the NBA was investigating Michael Jordan.
You think so?
Well, I mean, Michael Jordan was just, you think he's going to stay in a sport where he's just okay at?
I think he wanted to go back and play the sport he's always wanted to
it's
play.
Michael Jordan. I will never doubt the mindset of Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Not wanting to win more. What was The Last Dance about? What have you always preached about Michael Jordan? His mindset is completely different than any other player who's played in the NBA. So you're saying all of a sudden, we won 3. I'm done with it. There's something fishy.
Yeah, there is. And when it comes to conspiracy theories, the Loch Ness Monster, I don't believe in it. Bigfoot, when are y'all gonna find this guy?
Bigfoot's
There's no way Bigfoot's real.
You'd have found him by now. You'd have found him by now.
Yeah,
there's
it's a whole species.
There's a whole species that we can't find one.
We found Bobon, we'd have found Bigfoot by now.
On 7-Footer Island? On 7-Footer Island?
Zach Edey
I will say this about Michael Jordan.
We found him, but not Bigfoot?
I will say this to your point about Michael Jordan. This guy's in here gambling on who can throw the quarter the closest.
No, look, Boy has a problem.
And then the dude in the documentary hit him with the shrug.
Yeah.
That was cold. Also, but you think David Stern's just lying? You think David Stern, when David Stern came out and said,
I think David Stern's lying like he lied with the whole Tim Donaghy
Even to this point, though?
Yes.
Like, lie then, I get it, because Michael Jordan's your biggest star and you don't want to...
No,
look, David Stern, everybody works for somebody, buddy.
But right now...
Everybody works for somebody. David Stern or anybody involved with that would have opened their mouth. Who knows?
Michael Jordan's still the biggest star right now.
Yeah. And the best player ever.
No,
everybody
That
works for somebody.
You don't think that would have gotten out by now, though? Or maybe it has.
It would trash.
Don't even tell us aliens are real.
Do you think
you see the guy who's running the NBA, Adam Silver? Y'all want alien disclosure? Look at this guy. He's straight out of a Men in Black facility.
You think that the NBA is going to let out the face of the NBA, everything that's ever been great
Nike?
about the NBA,
Nike?
who propelled the NBA to levels they'd never been before, they're going to let something come out that'll
Nike
trash
has-
Michael, but not only trash Michael,
Nike has
trash the NBA.
Nike has slave labor, and they get away with it.
Here's my thing, though. The NBA not letting the information out, I understand that. But we've seen with other documentaries, like the McMillions documentary, the mob, people in the mob who have this information, they're the ones who want to talk about it.
Because they're getting arrested.
Yes.
And
so how
have to
has
talk about
that
it.
not
Nobody's
come out?
arrested David Stern.
Huh?
He probably, like he did the Chris Paul trade, he'd be like, no, we're not allowing you to arrest me.
He did do that.
We're not, look, you're the commissioner. The only other commissioner I like more than Dana White and David Stern is Commissioner Gordon off Batman, but they keep capturing him.
I have to do the best I can with what I have.
So I'm doubting his abilities.
If you could make a bet with Michael Jordan, what would it be? What would you wager with Michael?
I bet you couldn't go a day without betting.
That's all I needed for him to do that, and it became personal with me.
That'd be
You'd
my
win.
bet.
And you'd win.
Yeah. What would you bet, Michael Jordan?
What would I bet Michael Jordan? Michael, I bet you I could jump. Not as high as
No, I'll tell you what I bet him. I bet I could beat his son in one-on-one. Because I know I can't beat him. All right? Give me Michael Jordan's kid. At least I can say, hey, I beat Michael Jordan.
Is that how you do it?
I'd be like, man, I just beat Michael Jordan, y'all. It's Michael Jordan Jr. That's exactly how it would go down.
Exactly.
That's how I live my life.
All right.
Great question. I'm going to think about that.
All right, do you believe in the conspiracy? Do you believe in the Michael Jordan conspiracy I just said?
I do.
I do.
I now pronounce you man and woman.
Nah.
You don't?
I mean, I
Right.
believe that he.
2 out of 3, it's
I believe
real.
that he
David's all
gambled
in
a
his
lot.
2 out of
I
3,
believe that he
David's all in
gambled
his
all the
field.
time.
Oh, if it
He
was
said,
about LeBron,
Oh,
he
he'd
should
be
have
like,
first won.
yeah, he's taking money from China.
Hold on, did y'all say
Aliens are giving him
LeBron?
money.
Oh, he did that. Whatever
Yeah.
it is, he did that.
yeah.
What did Michael Jordan say? I don't have a gambling problem. I have a competition problem.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we did a segment on
That's
that.
probably that's like when Fat Bastard from Austin Powers says, I'm unhappy because I eat, but I eat because I'm unhappy.
Well, I'm glad we did a segment on the second best player ever in the NBA. It's just fun.
We haven't done LeBron James.
We just did Michael Jordan. What do you
We
mean?
just
You
talked
tell
about
us
Michael
in the
Jordan.
comments, do you believe in the Michael Jordan was suspended conspiracy theory? We're 2 out of 3 on the set. Let's see what you think. Guys, before we continue, I mean, I got to talk about Black Rifle. All right, coffee is the lifeblood. Okay, when if you know how when they like get a shark they thought ate somebody and they cut him open, and it's like a tire and a license plate. If they cut me up and just be Black Rifle coffee, because that's what I have to have. And they have great. Again, there's a lot of different coffees out there, but it's smooth. Whether it's Power Llama, whether it's Gunship, all right, the Headless Horseman's roast, which I believe is Conathan's favorite. They've got great variety, and in case you don't have time to brew coffee, I get it. Everybody's in a hurry. They have their Black Rifle coffees ready to drink. Cans, 200 milligrams of caffeine. Look, it's a veteran-founded coffee company, and every time you make a purchase here, right, they give back. They honor the men and women who serve this country. So stop running out of coffee and sign up for a Coffee Club subscription. David, your favorite, as I mentioned, is the Headless Horseman's roast.
I like the Headless Horseman's roast. I like the Fool's Gold. I like Gunship. I like Silencer Smooth, Power Llama, Lava Panther, Just Black, Beyond Black, all the rest of them.
Nice. What about you?
Well,
Called Cone's Combo.
great. I'm a big vanilla bomb guy.
That is true. And the caramel vanilla, please, all over me. I love it. Save money and drink America's coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com. Use our promo code BOOSTER, that's BOOSTER, at checkout for 10% off your one-time purchase or first Coffee Club order. That's blackriflecoffee.com. Promo code BOOSTER for 10% off. You can find it in grocery and convenience stores near you. But head on over to blackriflecoffee.com. Black Rifle Coffee, America's coffee. Now, we've discussed conspiracies on here, including Super Bowl conspiracy between the Ravens and the 49ers, the lights going out. But Cone, being the hard-hitting investigative journalist and ethical, principled, moral man that you are, turns out you may have found another one that goes back even further. What did you and Watson dig around and discover?
Boys, Super Bowl III was fixed. I thought I knew everything there was to know about Super Bowl III. Joe Namath and the Jets guaranteeing the victory over the Baltimore Colts, led by Don Shula, until I heard a conspiracy this week that Super Bowl III was fixed. I had to share it with you guys, okay?
Do you believe this before we get started? What's your level of belief? Because I'll tell you mine at the end.
My level of belief on this is about 5 right now. I wanted to share it with you,
Out of
with
10.
you guys.
Okay.
5 out of 10. I'm 50-50 right now because the evidence
That's
was
heavy
convincing.
early.
That's heavy early.
That's heavy
so I
early.
wanted to share it with you. You guys see if I'm on track or if I'm off base here, okay? To provide a little backstory here, the NFL had a monopoly on professional football for several decades, or at least so they thought, until the AFL began in 1960 and began to sign big TV contracts and sign big-name players, the biggest of which, Joe Willie Namath, was drafted in 1965 by the Cardinals of the NFL and the Jets of the AFL. He decided to sign with the New York Jets for a then record $400,000.
Back then it was worth $8 billion.
All of this resulted in the NFL and the AFL agreeing to a full merger, which would take place in 1970. However, both leagues agreed to hold a world championship game in the 3 seasons prior to the full merger. This became known as the Super Bowl. And just as many suspected, the NFL was far superior and was blowing out the AFL, with the Packers winning the first 2 Super Bowls. Well, having one league being far superior to the other jeopardized the new merger, which was going to increase revenue for everyone who was involved. Insert Carroll Rosenblum, owner of the Baltimore Colts, known as an active gambler who would even wager on his own team. Some even said that Carroll Rosenblum once forced the team to go for a touchdown rather than a field goal at the end of the game because he wanted to cover the 3-point spread.
If that's true, imagine how awesome that would be. You know how many times I've sat in front of the TV and was like, God, could you just give me the power to tell them not to knee it out? Or you know what? Don't kick the field goal.
And, he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
Just try and score. Like, to have that power. You said Carroll Rosenblum?
Carroll Rosenblum
Had that power. Wow.
That's what they say. Now, the Baltimore Colts had the mighty Johnny Unitas, but this season, Earl Morrall was playing quarterback. Johnny Unitas was injured. Baltimore was still 13-1. Many considered this Colts team, led by Don Shula, to be one of the greatest teams in NFL history. The Jets, led by Joe Namath, big-time underdogs. Listen to this. The line started at 18 and moved to 15. Here's where the conspiracy really heats up. Bubba Smith, Pro Bowl defensive end, is on record years later saying, quote, something was happening during that game and I didn't know what it was. We were inside the 25 times in the first half and scored 0 points.
What did you think when you got the script in 2016 that said your career was going to fall off a cliff when you stopped believing in God?
The line opened up at 18, but then went down to 15 because a big money bet had been placed. And I know where that bet came from. Owner Carroll Rosenblum bet $3 million on the Jets.
The other team.
The other team, and only needed quarterback Earl Morrall to make sure the fix was in. He goes on to say, if you read the terms of the NFL and AFL merger agreement, if the AFL didn't establish credibility by the end of 3 years, the terms were null and void. None of the owners wanted the merger to fall apart. You have one of the owners with a team in the Super Bowl who's known to gamble on his team. Maybe put a $3 million bet in, move that line down a little bit. Here's Earl Morrall's stats from the game. 6 for 17, 71 yards, 3 interceptions.
Yeah, some stinks. And if you're going to try and buy anybody in football, it's got to be the quarterback.
Pete Rozelle, commissioner of the NFL, who helped lead this merger, was quoted as saying right after the Jets' victory, this is the best thing that could have happened for pro football.
Yeah, now here's what it's insurance fraud. Or it's fraud in general to me. Like when you're looking at the contract, saying that all right, well, if we don't show credibility, then there's not going to be a merger. To me, that tells the whole story.
You think so?
That tells the whole story. There's so much more money to be made if it's a legit, just like any merger of big conglomerates or whatever that we see nowadays. I started out when you started at about a 2 out of 10.
You started out 2 out of 10?
I started out 2 out of 10. Now I'm 6.5 to 7 out of 10.
Real Paul Cruz situation.
You guys know I grew up a Miami Dolphins fan,
Paul Cruz
right?
situation.
I grew up a Miami Dolphins fan,
Yeah.
right? So I had known about studied the undefeated seasons that they had and all that. I started to piece this together too after I heard about this conspiracy. Where did Don Shula go after he left Baltimore? Went to the Miami Dolphins. Super Bowl VII, just a few years later. What happens? The Miami Dolphins go undefeated, 17-0. which player did he take with him from Baltimore? He took quarterback Earl Morrall with him. Now, Bob Greasy was the starting quarterback for the Dolphins. Not that season, though. Earl Morrall led the Dolphins to the undefeated perfect season. Maybe a makeup game? Maybe a makeup situation with the Colts having to throw the Super Bowl III?
David, I didn't think I was going to go down this rabbit hole, but you got me diving and looking around. I mean, I'm feeling. That's a legitimate one to me.
Now, here's why I'm only a 5 out of 10 on the conspiracy. Because Johnny Unitas, who was injured, he did come into the game. He didn't play well either, all right? He's 11 of 24. He threw an interception as well. Also, Joe Willie Namath could play football, man. And you kept telling the Jets that they were awful. They couldn't compete with the NFL. They couldn't compete with the Colts. They got a little chip on their shoulder. We've seen underdog stories before. I get it.
He doesn't even predict it. He said, I guarantee a Jet victory.
That's why I'm only a 5 out of 10 here. I wanted to see what you guys thought.
Have you heard anything from Earl Moore about the situation? As he said,
Don Shula came out and said there was no credibility to what Bubba Smith was saying.
Of course there's not, but here's my thing. What does Bubba Smith have to gain out of that? What does Bubba Smith have to, what's the positive side of Bubba Smith coming out and say that? I don't think that's something you would just make up. Don Shula's got a reason to keep it quiet. Don Shula's a legend. Like, not anymore. I mean, RIP, obviously, but back then, yeah. Why? Just like that. They're not going to tell you if there's a cover-up or something that big. We don't even know who killed JFK. We think we do.
CIA.
Like, if there's a cover-up at a high level, you're never going to find out. All right? So we're never 100% going to know the truth. But that clause in there in that merger where they have to show. So basically, their lives depend on it. On showing credibility.
Again,
a lot of people done a lot worse for a lot less.
That's what Bubba Smith said about the contract.
There's got to be, right? It's public knowledge, right?
We need to go find
I don't have
out.
to send a FOIA request to get this thing out, do I? I mean, I don't know. I'm a 6.5 out of 10 right now.
I just always thought it was a true underdog story for me. Joe Willie Namath coming there, chip on his shoulder. I guarantee you we will win. Beats the mighty Colts, and then someone slaps me with this info.
But if anybody was ever going to be on the take, I know Joe Namath didn't play super well, which makes me think, if he's in that control of his abilities, maybe he just kind of downplayed it so it wasn't super obvious.
Here were his stats. Joe Willie was 17 of 28 in the game, 206 yards. I mean, he had a good game.
Yeah. Well, compared to, the other
Earl
guy,
Morrall?
yeah, he's the greatest quarterback of all time ever. But if anybody was on the take, it would 100% be Joe Namath, right?
One of the things Bubba Smith was very upset about, they ran a flea flicker. The Colts ran a flea flicker in the game. They had run during the season before and thrown touchdowns on it. There was a wide receiver wide open on the flea flicker. Earl Morrall, which is the first read on the play,
Yep.
Earl Morrall throws to a different receiver who's covered and it's intercepted.
Yeah, something stinks. Something stinks.
That's fishy.
Yeah,
Fishy.
Yeah, there's some merit to this.
You think so?
Maybe we should find this out.
We need to investigate.
Look, they've been on like the trying to find out what's going on at Oak Island for like 300 years. I feel like we can figure this out before then.
Super Bowl III, boys.
All right, guys, we've knocked out a lot of conspiracies on this show.
This is
I think
true.
we're basically the Mythbusters of sports. We talked about the Michael Jordan conspiracy, but there's another one, put the lab coat on, dug down really deep to find, did some experiments and some tests, and I'm starting to believe it's actually real.
Put liquid paper on a beat.
What is it?
Super Bowl 47. Let me paint you a picture.
Sweaty.
San Francisco 49ers, Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco and the Ravens come out absolutely flocking. Go up 21-6 at halftime, have all the momentum. Beyonce comes out, does her little, halftime performance, whatever. Start the second half. The Ravens run the opening kickoff back. It's 28-6, about to be a blowout in the Super Bowl. Then all of a sudden, the power just goes out. And it's out for like 34 minutes, totally disrupting the momentum of the game. And if you know anything about football or sports or Isaac Newton, you know the importance of momentum. All right, so they come back after the wait. San Francisco goes on a 17-0 run, makes it close. The Ravens end up winning 34-31. It's the 49ers' first ever loss in a Super Bowl. It was actually the 10th time the Super Bowl was hosted in New Orleans, which tied them for the most with Miami at the time. So this is 2013, coming off the 2012 season. But before you say, oh, well, nobody believes that, Ray Lewis was quoted as saying basically that he believed it.
$1 billion stadium lights ain't going out, Peyton, unless something is at risk.
So you're going conspiracy.
And then Terrell Suggs was on E60, said that Roger Goodell always has something up his sleeve, couldn't let a blowout happen in the Super Bowl, couldn't just let us manhandle him. So before anybody says that I'm the only one that believes it, they call it the Blackout Bowl, Cone. Your thoughts?
I thought it was called the Har Bowl. Wasn't that Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh against
I think there was like 9 names for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, look. I think Jim Harbaugh was going to fight his way back in that game either way, no?
No, 28-6. It was a beatdown. How in that, like Ray Lewis said, you have a zillion-dollar organization, the NFL. Biggest game of the year is the Super Bowl, and the lights go out.
The real question is do we know what happened, right? Do we know exactly how the power went out? What's the explanation? Well, what was the conditions outside? That was in a dome, correct?
Yeah, it was in
that game was
Superdome.
Yeah, that was in a Superdome. So it's kind of confusing. And once I get an explanation on how it happened, maybe we can start unfolding the layers.
How were the breakers?
Yeah,
what's the guys from the company, the electric company saying?
Yeah, what really happened? And can really the lights dictate a comeback?
Well, if it's not about the lights, it's about the length of time that they had to stop playing and what was happening when they were playing. We know how momentum goes. You just run the opening kickoff back in the second half after dominating the first half. Look, the NFL, we know it's about ratings. It's about money.
Oh, yeah.
It's about the TV. They want a good game in the Super Bowl. Been hyping it up, horrible, whatever you want to call it. That disruption, you can overcome that. They had a veteran team, and the Ravens did overcome it, and they ended up winning the game. It's just the timing of it's odd, and it's after Beyonce just goes out there and does a light show. I mean, there's more electricity going through the air than in the Ghostbusters movie, man. Like,
Don't cross the streams.
What was the final score of that?
34-31 Ravens. Yeah.
They did fight back.
It's extremely skeptical hippo about that.
Out of 10, what do you think its truth level is?
6.
With 10 being it's
10
certain.
being it's true.
It's true. Roger Goodell threw a monkey wrench in so the 49ers could come back and make it a close game. Give me a 4, a solid 4.
I'm 8.5 right now.
Wow.
And I've dug deep. Look, I'm trying to find guys that work there. Tell me what happened, the way the wires are connected. But tell us in the comments, what do you think? Out of 10, with 10 being it's true and 1 being there's no chance it's true, what do you give this one?